Good morning, Abraham.
It is.
It's very good, very exciting to be here. The last time that we talked, I mentioned that I was a project manager and I was trying to introduce some of the principles of well-being into my project. And one of the things that I trying to understand how better to deal with is on several project situations we have what we call deadlines. That's when we've promised, we've committed the resources that certain things must be ready. And at the same time, I'm trying to learn and also encourage people to understand the balance between action and inspiration, and to work out of inspired action. But I get these things in which Monday morning at 12 o'clock, my progress report has to be ready. And sometimes I'm still not there. And I find myself then at 10 o'clock in a panic, trying to get everything ready because we've committed to that being ready.
And of course, it turns out perfectly under those conditions, yes?
So yeah.
Because in a panic, you're not connected to who you are, and so you're out there on the wrong ragged edge, and the shadow of who you are is preparing it.
Yes. So there's this, and so in this project, there's this culture of we've committed to this, that's got to be ready. And at the same time, is how do you, in that kind of a high pressure environment, for myself, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. I notice that the more that I'm looking for the inspiration, the more they come at the right time. But I'm wondering if there are other things that we could do to help people in this kind of situations.
Well, here's what we would do. First, we want to state emphatically that everything is perceptual. So let's say someone has given you a deadline. So now let's work on the word deadline. And what we suppose that the reason that they have taken this very specific word is because when you are dead in the way that humans think it's sort of like, it didn't matter that I didn't pay my bills because now I'm dead and now I can't, or it didn't matter what I didn't get done because now I'm dead and now I've come to the ending of the creation. And we want you to feel from us how ridiculous that statement is, because you never get it done and you can't get it wrong. So we would call it a never get it done line. This is what I've come to, but I never get it done. And do you know that you can let the value of the deadline, and we think the reason that so many try to utilize it, you touched on the word inspiration, and we want to remind you, we've talked about this before, is that when you are moving in the direction of who you really are, when the call of your source and your vibrational escrow is calling you and you're in the vicinity, that's inspiration. When you're over here knowing you're not where you want to be, and where you want to be is over there, and you're prodding yourself to get there, which is the way most people offer action, that's motivation. And motivation, here's a fun way of saying it, fun for us, not so much for you. Your hospitals are filled to the brim with people who are now trying to take action rather than align energies. And so we would begin with ourselves. We wouldn't try to speak it to others because they'll maybe just give you a hard time about it. But we would think, this is not a deadline. This is a focused point that has served me in this way. The fact that we've come to a place where others, maybe me and others, have decided that we will be at a particular point, that has amped up, ramped up, goosed up the stakes, so to speak, which has amplified the relationship between where I really am and who I'm letting myself be, to the extent that I'm now projecting into my vibrational escrow more, which means a deadline will make your stream go faster. But a deadline that you are sweating over makes your stream go faster, but takes you in the opposite direction of your stream. That's why you're panicked, you're less clear than you ever are. That's why you're so much better to work in the middle of the night, when there are no time pressures, when the ideas can just flow easily, than when you're right up against something. Esther said to Jerry, for years I shine in a crisis, And the reason that she shined in a crisis is because the deadline made her focus. But imagine focusing in allowing state rather than focusing in disallowing. If you have deadline after deadline, which means you're focusing in the direction of what you have deadline after deadline, which means you're flowing the energy stronger and stronger, but you're resisting it. That's where people get under so much stress, and they think it's the deadline that is giving them stress. It's not the deadline, it's the perception of the deadline. So if anybody ever says to you, whether you are the leader or someone is leading you, if somebody says we have to have such and such done by this point, this is the deadline, we would boldly say, I think that's going to be an amazing focal point, and I love that you've put it there for us to all focus upon. And it seems to me that when we get there, it's going to be the most incredible bouncing off place for something more, for another deadline and another deadline and another deadline and another deadline. Say, I've decided I'm going to call them lifelines, because there's something about establishing a point in time where we all focus together that makes the energy flow. And I find that if I relax in anticipation of what this focal point will mean, imagine a team of people all focusing on a point in time with an intention of finding something delicious when we all get there. Oh boy, is that opening a vortex to power that you can all tap into. But when you call it a deadline, as if there's something that you have to produce singular, all it is a rendezvous point. And as you now know what you know, it's not just a rendezvous point for you and the other physical people that are on your team. It's the rendezvous point when all that is will join you in this swirling vortex, and it has the potential of giving you a stimulation of thought and a birthing of a desire the likes of which you've never seen. Your best ideas can come from those moments of lifeline.
That's true. Yes, I can see it. I can see it in a different way now.
Everything is perspective, isn't it? You say.
Can do that.
And don't resist the idea that somebody's trying to motivate you with a deadline. They don't know what you know, and they're just doing the best they know how to do. Get there all tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and show them what a rendezvous point can be really like. In other words, you can start turning the tide in your organization as you say, oh good, I just love it when we set those focal points where we're all going to rendezvous with such precision. I used to resist it. I used to think it was like a deadline where I had to drag myself there with all of my resources. But now that I see it as a focal point, it's like I'm more alive on the days of those deadlines than I am at any other time. It's as if everything rendezvous. I love these focal points. I love these focal points.
There's something you said there that I've also experienced, that I find on some days I just feel like walking through the night on something particularly. It just flows, and my wife sometimes doesn't like it, but I feel, well, tonight I don't feel like sleeping. And that's when I just go through the whole night, and it just flows, and the whole ideas are there, and I complete everything.
What that means is, by virtue of whatever you were thinking about before, maybe you were particularly appreciating something, maybe what was particularly nice, and it sets you in that frame of mind. Doesn't matter how you got there, but what it means is you were in the vicinity of a breakthrough, and there was no resistance within you, so the breakthrough just grabbed you and took you, you see. And it's so blissful, and we want you to understand that that's always right there, ready to take your hand and take you to places that feel better than any place that you've been lately on that subject. But you got to chill out. You got to relax and not let other people put pressure on you. That's where we say you got to come to this place where you don't give a rip what they think. Your relationship with you has to be so much more important than what somebody else thinks about something. So if you get there and they say, have you prepared your report? And we want you to be comfortable in saying, not in a way that's going to please you, but boy, did I have a breakthrough. I didn't jump through the hoop that you wanted me to jump through, but I did something better. I got so clear, I'm on fire with this. In other words, I didn't go through the motions that somebody else assigned, but your setting of this deadline for me certainly got me to a place where I've got something big to give. In other words, you just have to keep speaking to your own power and not allowing others to drain you of your power with their stupid games.
Yes. Yeah.
You see, and you've got to know that. Don't call them stupid to their face. But don't let them motivate you. They're serving their purposes. You're serving yours. And if you don't serve your purpose of closing your gap, you've got nothing to give them.